From school bullies and mosquitoes to god-level threats. This is every single Saitama fight in the One Punch Man story from beginning to now. Starting off with when Saitama was still a wee boy taking his L's. At just 12 years old, Saitama was mugged by a group of school bullies called the Ripped Uniforms. He tried standing up to them but was immediately one-shot. The bullies then got attacked by a rampaging monster that stole money called Piggy Bankon. With an overwhelming sense of determination flowing through him, Saitama got back up and chased the pig down the street to get his money back. However, he was met with another L. Not the best of starts for our caped Baldy, but things would soon change against Crablante when he was much older. This was when Saitama was at his lowest. He was unemployed, depressed, and ready to give up. However, seeing that the monster was about to kill a young boy, something overcame him, causing Saitama to jump in and protect him without even thinking. He declared that his dream since he was a kid was to defeat villains with a single punch, and that is exactly what he did to Crablante. Now, whilst it may not have been a punch per se, Saitama did manage to defeat the monster. This means that theoretically, even before breaking his limiter, Saitama was already at A-class level, as they're stated to be able to defeat a tiger level threat all alone. And so with that came Saitama's first dub. This sent him down the path of removing his limiter. This was something placed on humanity by none other than God. However, to break it, the human body must experience the point of death multiple times, and at that point they will experience an explosive growth in power. Saitama achieved this by pushing his body to death every single day with his training regime, whilst also leaving out access to things like air conditioning to help regulate his body, as it would have been an unnatural occurrence. On his journey to break his limiter, he became a hero for fun. In this time, he had already defeated 10 monsters, including a sunflower and soon after a boxing monster, taking his total W's up to 12. With his power growing each day, Saitama then saved King from the Octopus Man, where the S-class hero suffered his iconic scar. His next dub came against the Fish of Darkness, the leader of a criminal organization that lived in his apartment complex. Saitama's strength already started to take shape that summer, where during an attack by the 170,000-year-old cicada lava, he defeated it whilst in a rush for the toilet. This was the first demon level monster Saitama had faced, and it was still easy for him even before losing his hair and entering his prime. Fast forward a bit and the caped Baldy had arrived, bringing us onto episode 1, where he defeats Vaccine Man in just 21 seconds. This is when Saitama began getting angered that nobody could put up a fight against him. Moreover, the credit for defeating the dragon level monster was given to King, who just so happened to be nearby at the time. Following the death of his brother, the demon level threat Beefcake flattens B-City, believing to have beaten Saitama. The monster then states that he feels empty about what he has become and starts mourning. Saitama agrees that having overwhelming strength is boring, killing him in a single punch. Shortly after this, he then defeats Super Custom YO649Z Mark II. However, Saitama would soon find himself fulfilling his dream of finding an opponent that could give him a challenge, that being the Subterraneans. The problem is that it quite literally was a dream, with the real Subterraneans retreating after seeing Saitama kill their king. From here though, we move on to one of Saitama's most difficult challenges to this day. A foe so powerful it outsped Saitama's top speed. Who is this enemy? Well, it's of course the Mosquito. There was no definitive winner here, so we shall put it under unfinished. But it's safe to say that Saitama was well and truly humbled in that moment. Nonetheless, the Mosquito joined up with Mosquito Girl, who despite giving Genos a run for his money, was sent blasting off Team Rocket style by Saitama. This alerted the attention of Dr. Genus and the House of Evolution, who wanted to study Saitama's body due to him being the only person that had naturally broken his limiter. In doing so, they sent multiple monsters out to bring him in, but no luck. Saitama easily dealt with them too, adding another 5 onto his dub counter. Thus, the House of Evolution left the job to their most powerful warrior, Carnage Kabuto. This was when Saitama revealed to those watching the source of his true power, whilst making light work of his opponent so that he wouldn't miss out on the Saturday sale. Now next up was Hammerhead, who was beaten so bad they were sent running away in tears. This then brings us onto one of Saitama's most persistent rivals, Speed of Sound Sonic. He attacks Saitama, mistaking him for a paradiser because of his bald head. However, the baldy damaged Sonic's pride by catching his attacks. Upon realizing he had no interest in fighting, Sonic attempted one final killer move. This ended in inevitable failure though, as he was hit in the crotch, ending the fight in the most brutal way yet. After passing the hero exam, Saitama is put into C class. Believing the baldy was lucky to pass with such rank, A class hero Snek warns Saitama that he will have to train hard as to not put such great luck to waste. However, after being told by a Hero Association executive that if Snek doesn't be careful, he'll eventually be outranked by the caped baldy, he challenges him to a battle to see what all the fuss is about. And as they say, f around, find out. Following their success together at passing the hero exam, Genos fancies testing out his capabilities against his sensei, asking Saitama to go all out, resulting in one of the most iconic anime sparring sessions of all time, where Saitama is centimeters away from killing Genos before pulling his punch. Being a C-class hero meant that Saitama had a weekly quota to fulfill, thus when he saw his rival Sonic causing havoc, he saw it as a great opportunity to do some easy work, one-shotting the ninja into the ground. This saw his rank rise from C-class 388 to 342. Later, Saitama is walking home, and after forgetting to buy some kombu for his soup, he instead assaults a kombu monster and tears it from its body, leaving it in tears. Moving forward, the S-class stares down the face of a seemingly indestructible meteor. Both Metal Knight and Genos couldn't do anything to it, with the civilians below already giving up on life. But then Saitama appears. Despite being a close-range fighter like Bang, Saitama launches himself into the sky with so much force it's like he's flying. Thus, with a single punch, he destroys the entire meteor, saving Z-City, all whilst nonchalantly claiming that the job is done. And so, as well as landing his 33rd dub of the series, it was also one of the first times somebody got a true glimpse of the power Saitama is capable of. This resulted in his promotion to C-class rank 5, as the meteor was deemed to be a disaster level dragon. This ends up in Tank Top Tiger and his brother Tank Top Black Hole confronting Saitama in public, trying to defame him, because despite destroying the meteor, fragments from its destruction still landed in Z-City, causing havoc. Thus, Saitama is blamed for it. However, Tank Top Tiger is the first to feel the wrath of Caped Baldy, with his brother falling to his knees shortly after in pain from just the grip strength, as Saitama shouts to those spectating that he doesn't care if they hate him for destroying their city, as he's not a hero for them, but just for the fun of it. He is then promoted to 2nd place in Class C after defeating a messenger of the Sea Folk. Soon thereafter though, he made light work of their king, punching the monster so hard he literally changed the weather. Nonetheless, Saitama's most difficult battle yet was right around the corner. But first he had to dispatch 2 of the Dark Matter thieves. These were Groribus and Garou Ganshoop, swiftly bringing us onto Saitama versus Boros. Boros was the self-proclaimed dominator of the universe and had invaded Earth thanks to a prophecy claiming that he'd find a worthy opponent here. And that he did. This was the first time a monster had managed to survive a punch from a limitless Saitama. After transforming into his most powerful form, Boros kicked Saitama to the moon, believing to have won the fight. But when the Baldy makes a dramatic return, the alien responds with his collapsing star roaring cannon. But it's easily cancelled out by Saitama's serious punch, which splits the clouds, resulting in the death of Boros. With Saitama's thirst for a viable opponent still not quenched, he fights Pluton, but is once again left dissatisfied. He soon meets the man that's been taking a lot of Saitama's credit, as he saves King from the giant crow, realizing that the S-class hero isn't as strong as he's made out to be. Despite not reporting any of the monsters that he's defeated to the Hero Association though, Saitama is raised to B-class rank 7. This causes the Blizzard group to approach Saitama in an attempt to get him to join their team. Things take a sour turn though when he effortlessly sends 2 of its members blasting off again. And so as he turns his attention to Fubuki teaching her a lesson, their battle is ultimately interrupted by Genos and Sonic, causing Saitama to protect her from their explosion. Meaning that Fubuki can count herself lucky, as that means that she joins the Mosquito in the very small undecided group, even if the winner would have been obvious in the end. The appearance of Sonic however means that Saitama had to deal with his rival rival once again, resulting in the 45th win of his life, with this being the 3rd against Sonic alone. But soon, Saitama would encounter an enemy that would change his life forever. An enemy so formidable it would risk a mass extinction, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. That man would be Garou. Early in his hero hunting days, he came across Saitama at a store looking for a wig. Presuming that he was a no-name hero hoping to make a name, and defeating him, Garou attacked. He'd get a taste of his own medicine though when Saitama, not knowing who the hell Garou was, angrily responded with the karate chop that knocked the hero hunter out cold. Now the reason Saitama needed a wig was so that he could secretly participate in the super fight tournament as Charanko. This saw him defeat Zakos, Bakuzan, and Sourface, landing him a spot in the final with Suryu. Suryu was so good at martial arts that he was too bored of being OP, just like Saitama. They fight on equal terms, albeit with the Baldy trying to ensure his wig stays on to keep up his disguise. However, after Suryu reveals he hates heroes and hits Saitama with one last kick, his cover is blown. Clearly displeased with Suryu's rants, Saitama finally decides to attack, but stops midway before he could end the battle with a single punch once again. The wind pressure from this blow alone is so strong that Suryu's clothes are ripped. Nonetheless, it ends in a loss for Saitama as he is disqualified for impersonating the real Charanko. That being said, their battle continues outside the Super Fights tournament rules, where Saitama does end up getting the win. Suryu's stance on heroes would soon change though when Bakuzan returned, this time as a monster to face Saitama once again. In spite of this, it ended in a single punch, as did the fight against the even more powerful monster Goketsu. As Saitama begins to struggle more and more with the feeling of loneliness, he spends more time with King, which is interrupted by Garou once more, ending with Saitama effortlessly defeating him. However, the reason Saitama seeks out King's company is because he offers Saitama a small taste of what he's after in life: a challenge. In fact, Saitama has lost to the so-called strongest man on Earth a total of 81 times in video games. Listen, I don't want to hear it. A loss is a loss, okay? Skill issue. With the threat of the Monster Association growing larger and larger, Saitama found himself defeating Elder Centipede with his serious punch. However, all this hero work is hungry work, and so is hero hunting. Thus, both Saitama and Garou find themselves dine and dashing. But when Garou confronted Saitama once again, believing him to be a weakling, he was one-shot. With all the noise the Monster Association was making, Saitama took it into his own hands to go and put a stop to it by finding their leader. On his journey, he encountered Overgrown Rover, wondering how on earth a dog could grow so big. The monster fires off a large energy beam, to which Saitama simply jumps over, calling Rover a bad dog and remarking at his lack of training before landing a punch, which sends the poor dog flying. Saitama's time spent facing monsterized pets had not stopped yet either, as he was ambushed by Nyan. In spite of this, it ended in embarrassment for the cat, as his attacks did nothing, causing it to run off in fear of Saitama's crazy power. Saitama wouldn't have to wait too much longer though to finally get his hands on the leader, Monster King Orochi. After realizing that Saitama was quite legitimately built different, he dragged the Baldy deep underground to show him an ancient mural explaining how it depicts Orochi resurrecting as God once a sufficient sacrifice is presented. Orochi believed that sacrifice would be Saitama. However, after being obliterated by a powerful punch causing the cave to collapse, it is revealed that Orochi was nothing more than a pawn for the true god. So not only did Saitama win, but he truly humbled the Monster King in the process. That being said, although he completed his mission of finding the supposed leader of the Monster Association, his night kept getting worse as he was subsequently dragged into the surrounding war. This saw him literally split the sea with a single punch, destroying evil ocean water. At that moment, he said he'd rather just obliterate the entire planet. Such a harrowing statement shook even Garou. Nonetheless, he once again believed him to be a nobody and went in for the attack, only to be met with a swift punch to the face. It was then that Garou realized that this Baldy was actually the final hurdle stopping him from becoming absolute evil. The two engage in a violent head-to-head where, in response to the anger he is feeling, Garou's body undergoes a mutation that increases his size and stature as well as his strength. Tario and Saitama try to explain that Garou is actually a hero, which is supported by the fact that even when he doesn't mean to, he saves people's lives, as seen in the battle with Saitama. This just angers Garou even more, causing him to undergo yet another mutation. Their battle got so violent that it began to distort space and mess with the Earth's magnetic and gravitational fields, breaking the seal that God was placed in. Thus, when Saitama landed the finishing blow on Monster Garou, sending him flying, the hero hunter laments about being defeated by such an unfair opponent. But this is when a voice in the distance reaches out to him. It was God. He gave Garou a tiny amount of his power, turning him into his avatar. And so he was back up and ready for round 2, this time as the God level threat awakened Garou cosmic fear mode. Each punch that came from his fist was a nuclear blast. To take it up a notch, Garou enters Saitama mode, mimicking his abilities. Ultimately, Garou got Saitama out of the way by unleashing a gamma ray burst. Thus, he could finally go back to becoming absolute evil. However, Genos flew in, trying his best to stop the hero hunter. But instead, Garou saw this as an opportunity to force Saitama to use his full power by killing his best friend. This worked as Saitama snapped. The two put the entire planet at risk of certain destruction with a serious punch squared before Blast teleported them to space to minimize the damage. Nonetheless, a gaping hole was left behind throughout the galaxy. The recoil from the explosion sent the two of them to the moon of Jupiter, Io. From here, Saitama showed just how unfair he really could be, as with each passing second, his power grew more and more until there was nobody left in existence that could measure it. With one hand, he destroyed the moon. With one sneeze, he blew away Jupiter. He survived the surface of the sun until eventually Garou realized he had no chance. Accepting defeat, he asked Saitama to copy his movements, knowing that if anyone could perform the acts of God without his power, it would be him. Thus, Garou sent Saitama back in time to defeat him before he could go too far, landing Saitama his 61st dub. Now, saving the galaxy from complete annihilation saw his rank rise up to A-class rank 39. With him losing his apartment in the war though, Saitama needed a new place to stay, and so he moved into the Hero Association's new apartment complex. One of the things they prided themselves on here was Metal Knight's anti-monster defense robots, each one stated to be more effective than every A-class hero combined. They cost 9 billion per unit to manufacture, and Saitama one-shot all of them after he walked in with his two new pets, Rover and Black Sperm. From what we can see, there's 5 that he destroys, so we can presume this takes his total up to 66 dubs. Now, one of Saitama's new neighbors here is another hero named Forte. This guy can't believe how many S-class friends the Baldy has, so he challenges Saitama to a duel. However, with his headphones on so loud, he can't hear Fubuki's car and gets run over, making it another undecided outcome. My guy got let off pretty lightly, to be honest. From here, Saitama tagged along with the Blizzard group to see Psychos, who is now held prisoner. In spite of this, as Tatsumaki showed up instigating a fight, Saitama saw himself being sent underground where many demon level monsters were being stored. And whilst we don't have an exact amount, they were no problem for the Caped Baldy, so we'll add on another 10 for good measure. He wasn't finished yet though. Saitama had a vendetta against Tatsumaki for being responsible for destroying his apartment in the Monster Association war. Because of this, he wanted to teach her a lesson. However, she didn't realize who she was messing with. Saitama grabbed Tatsumaki by the hand, which caused her to unleash her full psychic power as confirmed by Fubuki. She was trying to disrupt Saitama's psychic signal, but it had next to no effect, only making his muscles twitch. Tatsumaki couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could this Baldy be immune to her telekinesis? Well, it all came down to Saitama's mental fortitude being immune to psychic powers. You see, a person's psychic persistence is directly linked to the person's willpower, and thanks to Saitama's insanely thick spirit as a result of his intense training turning him into an evolved being, it means it's like Tatsumaki trying to pin down a massive boulder. Obviously, this infuriates her, but by the end of their battle, she finally notices and accepts Saitama, as she even views him in the same light as Blast, making Saitama one of the only people Tatsumaki genuinely respects and looks up to. Plus, he rizzed her up too, so that's a major W. Following all of this, Saitama was rewarded with a brand new rank, as he was made A-class rank 29 now. This saw both Genos and Saitama have another sparring match just 2 months after their original. However, despite Genos indeed growing stronger, Saitama still won, as Genos realized his efforts would be wasted, as there's nothing he could do to his sensei other than just dirty his clothes at best. And well, he's got a fair point, as following this, Saitama speedrun an entire arc in a single day. Firstly, he defeats Wrangel and purposefully resurrects the Cruel Dragon, an ancient beast that had been sealed away as it would risk the lives of all humanity. Saitama, however, thought, rather than sealing it, why not just resurrect it and kill it? And so he does exactly that. Following this, we move on to yet another sparring match, but this time one Saitama is not interested in at all. Flashy Flash, after seeing Saitama's power in the Monster Association arc, decided that he needed a sensei and put himself forward for that role. Saitama had 30 minutes to hit Flashy Flash in order to avoid becoming his student, and whilst at first he forgot just how fast the K-Ball he was due to his dumb luck, Flash soon remembered. However, even he couldn't avoid the iconic Death Punch. But just like his battle with Fubuki, it was interrupted by Genos, who had an emergency monster alert, meaning he never did manage to connect with this punch, and thus the match was left undecided for the time being, making it the 4th time this happened.